I'm standing with Betty Rena and Michael Diamond, and they have been involved in the Occupy. Actually, I met Betty at the very first meeting, the very first General Assembly, and Michael, this is my first meeting with you, but you've been to one of these before, haven't you? Haven't I seen you at one of these?
Yeah, earlier.
Earlier.
Yeah, sure.
Well, let's talk. What brings you here? Betty, I'm going to start with you because I know that you have something to say.
Well, what brings me here is that over the years I have seen this country go from a country where everyone had a dream for a good, solid livelihood to a country where the economic inequities have just become overwhelming. The country is now totally controlled by corporations, by the super wealthy. It has almost become a class system, like they used to have in Europe years and centuries ago, where there is an elitist at the top that feels entitled. And even though our taxes have provided much of the opportunity for them to make their wealth, they don't see where they owe anything back to the people. But we are still we the people. We are not we the corporations.
If you were to pinpoint one of the existing laws that needs change immediately, what would it be? Or if you want to pick three, pick three.
Well, no, I think that giving peoplehood status to corporations, as the Supreme Court did, was a major mistake which will cause even more opportunity for the moneyed class and the corporations, not only in this country, but in other countries, to contribute to members of Congress and anyone who has anything to do with running this country in ways that takes everything out of the hands of the people.
I've heard that before about we the corporation. Where does it say that? Michael, what would you like to add to our conversation?
Well, my interest in what Betty is talking about began in 1981 when I was the enforcement administrator at the Division of Water Resources of the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. What I saw at that time, that was 1981, is that people were being harmed, are being harmed in very critical ways. Exposures have harmed us. We are simply not genetically capable of dealing with the damage that we're getting from the exposures that the corporations have foisted upon us. In addition, they've foisted war and economic inequality upon us. I've been working very hard on on research and development of an argument that these people are beginning to listen to, and that is an argument based on the civil emergency provision in the Constitution. It's the domestic violence clause in Article 4, Section 4. That civil emergency provision is the antidote that will allow people, once we know about it and work on it, that's the antidote to corporate power. That is the provision that can take down what Supreme Court Justice Brandeis said was the Frankenstein monsters within our country. And the Frankenstein monsters, Justice Brandeis said in 1933, were these corporations that have a stranglehold on us and a stranglehold on the planet. We really need to get ahead of that, and that's why I'm here. I think these people want to do just that. Occupy means bring the world back to the control by individuals.
So you've taken us both to 1981 and 1933, Brandeis being one of the more well-known Supreme Court justice names that have lasted through the decades. And when you talk about 1933 and the corporations, obviously in your mind this is not a new battle. Now we go to 1981. You're in charge of water resources. Is that what I'm to understand?
Division of Water Resources in the Department of Environmental Protection.
And where does the corporate world fit into that? What was happening with the water at that point in time, and what do you think's going on now?
what I found in 1981 was a department that was peopled by engineers. The Environmental Protection Agency had just been created in 1970. It was peopled by engineers and lawyers. Matters were so out of control in 1970 and 1981 that the programs for environmental protection, for protecting people, should have been managed by biologists, people with scientific background, because at that time the exposures were already beginning to affect the global warming, already beginning to affect people. I was born in 1939. I do not remember one single case of a child with cancer. I do not remember one single case of a kid with autism. Autism went from being 1 in 10,000 births, now it's approaching 1 in 100.
Is it?
Yeah. In other words, and in addition, those wonderful engineers that were working for me, they had no idea that exposures were affecting us behaviorally. I remember back to the 1940s and 1950s when behavior was understood. No one was going postal. No one was doing things that were so extraordinary. Now there are thrill killings and people who do amazingly antisocial behaviors, and we simply expect it because people don't remember back to a time when it wasn't the case.
And you believe that's a piece of what we eat and digest and drink. And how does the media, how does television, how does that interact with that? Is that a piece of that also, or where's your thought process there?
Well, the media has a public aspect to it. Instead of responding to the truths that are inherent in our environmental problems, the media is responding to the corporate agenda to sell products, and so they've fallen down on the job. Media involves public airways, and they are. Betty and I were talking about this before. A small number of corporations.
Corporations control all the media. They have the TV stations, the newspapers. There are very few voices being heard that are really concerned with the needs of the people. And what Michael's talking about with the pollution, we look at like the BL England plant was spewing out. It doesn't run much. It's not that needed. It's only run 40 days a year, but it runs during the summer when the weather is the hottest and the most air conditioners are running. They have polluted the water around them. They want to dredge around Ocean City now, which will bring up all of this stuff from underground that's filled with extremely hazardous chemicals. And where is the public outrage? Why are people not seeing the damage done? So many people around here now have asthma, COPD, as he said, autism. And I'm older than Michael. I don't remember those things from when I was a child. And all of these chemicals going into the air and the water and the food we eat. Look at young girls reaching their bodies maturing at 8 and 9 now, when it used to be 11, 12, 13. These are growth hormones in what the people eat. So what we eat and what we drink and what we breathe in the air is harming our people. And nobody is taking it on because there's too much money involved.
So it's back to the dollar is what you're saying.
Back to the dollars, back to the money. Okay. Money for the corporations and money for the healthcare industry.
Now, the reason that Justice Brandeis is important is that Brandeis's warning took place in a case called Liggett versus Lee in 1933, when Florida, the state of Florida, was trying to control large corporations coming in to Florida. Brandeis said these states have an obligation to keep business